Hi, my name's Anne from Orchid Systems, and today I'm going to do a training video on using Extender for customizing Sage 300 OCXs. But first of all, is Extender the correct product for you? Do you have business or integration requirements that can't be met out of the box by Sage 300 functionality? Are you shocked by high costs associated with software development and upgrades, or worried about adding complexity and risk by introducing solutions that sit outside your ERP system? Did you know there is now a cost-effective way to introduce bespoke business logic from simple validations and alerts through to custom screens and tables or integration with external applications, all held within your Sage 300 database? Before I get into the training, let me just give you a quick overview of Extender. Extender comes in 4 editions: the Runtime, Configurator, Customizer, and Developer. The runtime is geared at ISVs using Extender as the basis of their module, which they intend to deploy in multiple sites. But for individual customers, you would either use the Configurator, Customizer, or Developer edition, depending what their requirements are. With the Configurator edition, you can configure alerts and logging to keep people informed, so log changes to critical data as it's changed, and/or call programs in real time for systems integration. The Customizer allows you to deploy scripts, Extender scripts, which can be screens, automations, validations, customizations, or process automation. And finally, the Developer Edition includes the ability to create tables in the Sage 300 company database. These tables are created so that the rest of the Sage environment sees these tables in the same way as a core module. They will dump and load, and the reporting utilities will see these tables and work the same way with these tables. Using Extender scripts, you can apply logic to the business logic of Sage 300. So you can put a validation, for example, on the AR customer that the credit limit cannot exceed $3,000. And whether you access the AR view for the customer through the web user interface, the import-export utilities, or through your own custom macros, that business logic will apply. But you can also apply Extender scripts now to the VB OCX. This allows you to customize at the user interface level as well as to the business view logic level. And this is the area that I'm going to go through in some detail in this training session. One of the reasons we chose a scripting language to apply your custom processes and amendments to either the VB UI or to the Sage 300 business logic in the form of a script was we could import those scripts into the database. This means 3 things: that the customizations are backed up with the company database, they can be specific to each company, and they will dump and load, and they will upgrade, thereby reducing your costs for customization, with the ongoing maintenance being much easier when the customer upgrades. With Extender PU4 and above, we are now able to customize the OCX. You can apply scripts, Extender scripts, to Sage 300 OCXs. You can apply these scripts to any OCX written in the Sage 300 SDK. This refers to the core modules, so common services, admin services, accounts receivable, accounts payable, GL, IC, PO, OE, project and job costing, and the 2 payrolls, US payroll and Canadian payroll. But you can also customize third-party developers who create their OCXs using the Sage 300 SDK, for example, Orchid's EFT, RMA, inter-entity transactions, bin tracking, etc. With Extender scripts, you can add fields and tabs and buttons and finders to an OCX. You can hide or remove fields, tabs, buttons, and finders as well. You can change field labels, button labels, and finders, and you can change the way buttons or finders work. And you can also interact with the underlying data source. You can apply multiple OCX scripts to the same OCX. This means that you can modularize your development, but you can also have multiple developers' scripts running around the same OCX screen. For extender scripts for OCXs, you need to be using either the Customizer edition or the Developer edition, which includes the Customizer functionality. So you need to be able to write and run custom scripts. The extender scripts are imported in the extender setup area. You click on the scripts icon and then click on Upload Script. And as I mentioned before, you can apply these scripts to any OCX which is developed in the Sage 300 SDK. The extender scripts must contain the roto ID of the OCX that you want to apply it to as part of the module and script name, or just script name if you're not using a module prefix. For example, if your module was orchid.oe screen, and that was what prefix for all your scripts as part of that module, and you had a script called hide field, you'd need to put in OE1100 just before the script name hide field. And this would mean this is the trigger for Extender to recognize that the OE1100 hide field script is applicable to the OE1100, which is the order entry screen. Or if you're not using a module name, then you would just call it OE1100.hide field. And then within the script itself, the first row of the script, you need to include the roto ID again, and it must be in positions 3 to 7 in the script. So hash to make it a comment line from a Python point of view, and then a space, and then OE1100. If you want to deactivate or comment out the script, all you need to do is make sure that the first row, positions 3 to 7, does not contain the roto ID, which is in the heading of that particular, or in the name of that particular script. So extender scripts for OCXs, just like they are for the views, they are Python scripts which include the Extender Python library. And in the Extender Python library, you've got the view subclasses and UI subclasses or controls that you can use in your OCX script or your view script. Python is deployed in a scripted manner, so you don't need to compile or recompile your code for new versions or sometimes for product updates like you do have to do if you're doing an OCX, a VB project around an existing OCX. The customizations, the scripts, are imported into the company database, and so they will dump and load and will be backed up when you back up the company database. And when you upgrade the system manager and upgrade Extender, the customizations will upgrade as well. And it also lets you have specific customizations for a specific company, as you can import a different version of the OCX controls that you need into different companies. We're now going to have a look at the OCX scripts for order entry, which are our samples to get you going with OCX customizations. So firstly, go to orchid.systems, log in, click on Product Downloads, click on Extender Scripts, and download the OCX scripts for OE order entry as shown here. These are the ones that we will upload and test. I have already downloaded the OCX sample scripts and imported them into Orking 2. So these are the 6 sample scripts in the zip file on the website. The only change I've done is to comment out the sample scripts, and you can tell that because of this hash showing beside the OCX name. And I have commented them all out because I want to uncomment them one by one and run through them with you. If you want to re-upload a script, you should delete it first. because if you just reselect the script, for example, hide field, you'll get this error uploading file, and that record already exists. So the scripts are imported by name. So if the script already exists, it will give this error message. This is not the case if you import a module. A module will replace scripts, but just a script on its own, it gets imported by name. The first OCX script we're going to do is to hide the tracking number. So just opening up the hide field script. So this script is commented out. To make the script active, I would just delete the one hash. So a script will be active around the underlying OCX, in this case OE1100, which is the order entry screen, if in the first row, in positions 3 to 7, you have the OCX roto ID, and you have that same information in the name of the script. So this script hides the tracking number. After initializing the OCX control, you can use get host control by caption and put in the caption, and that will select the tracking no full stop field by caption and hide it. And then you need to show the underlying OCX. So saving the script and checking it back in, you can see the hash is now not visible. This means this script is now active. So if I go to my order entry screen, the package tracking number, which is normally here, has now been hidden. The help for the UI scripts is in the same place as the help for the view scripts. So if you go to your Sage 300 install, to your Extender directory, to the doc directory within Extender, and double click on any one of these topics, and the help will open up with the topics down the left hand side. Here's the documentation on the naming conventions for UI subclassing. So if the script is called the roto ID or contains the roto ID, and the first line of the script also contains the roto ID after a hash and a space, then the script will be applied to that particular roto ID. The main control that you work with is the host control, and the host control is the underlying object or class of the OCX that you're subclassing. And within the host control, you can work with control infos, which are the fields on the control, and or a list of controls. You can either get the control info list by name or by caption. The second OCX script we're going to do is to replace the shipfire finder with the vendor table. So instead of doing a lookup on the shipfire codes, we're going to do a lookup on the vendor codes. The next script you're going to look at is the change shipfire finder. First, I'm going to uncomment the roto ID script or the OCX script so it will become active. We initialize the host control and then get from using the host control by caption option, we get the shipfire field and set when they click the shipfire field to run this particular routine. We also need the data source, the OE order header data source, so we initialize a handle to the OE data source and show the form. When they click the shipfire finder, it's going to run this function. So if the field type is a finder, we're going to reset the finder to be on the AP1500 or vendor list. And when they click on OK on the finder, we're going to run this subroutine. And when they click cancel on the finder, we're going to run this subroutine. When they click OK on the finder, we're going to set the data source that we got the handle to the data source here. We're going to set the data source field, the ship via field, to what they've selected from the finder, and ensure that the original finder is not clicked on, which is underneath, or the original functionality assigned to the ship via field. And if they click cancel on the ship via finder, then we're just setting that finder to cancel. Save the script, check it back in, and go to test our screen. Now we have two OCX scripts running on this order entry screen, the one that is hiding the tracking number and the one that has replaced the ship via finder to the vendor view. And if I select, as you'd expect, I get an error because I need to have created a ship via code with the same as the vendor code, but the underlying view is giving me that error message. The third OCX script we're going to do is to replace the finder, even for miscellaneous items, in the grid from the miscellaneous charge codes to the item code. You can also replace the functionality on the grid finders. So we're going to look at the next script here, change grid finder, uncomment it, and look at the code. First we initialize the host control. First we get a handle to the OE order detailed control on the form, and then set the finders in that grid, and then show the form. But when the finder on the grid is clicked, it is replacing the finder with the IC item view. So in my case, the example we're going to test is even though we choose a miscellaneous item line, when we click on the finder, it still goes back to the IC item finder and returns the item key. If they select a record from the finder, it's going to run this particular subroutine, which is going to take the finder value and set it into the field. And if they click cancel on the finder, it's going to run this subroutine and they're going to cancel the finder. Save the script and check it back in, and check the functionality in OE. So if I insert a row and change the type to miscellaneous item, you would expect this finder to be on the miscellaneous item code, but now when we click on the finder, it is going back to the IC item finder. But based on our script, we have actually replaced all finders with the item code. If we had wanted to, we should have checked which field was active and only replaced the finder for the item field or column in that grid. The fourth script we're going to do is to replace the customer number finder with the item finder. And we're going to look at one last finder example with the customer finder on the order entry screen. Uncomment the script. First thing we do is get a handle to the underlying host control, and then using the get host control by caption, we're getting a handle to the customer number control and saying on click of that control, run this routine or this subroutine on customer number click. And if they've clicked on the finder of the customer number, we're going to replace it with the IC item view. Return the item number. This, if they selected a record from the finder, we're going to run the customer finder OK, where we put the selected item record into the customer number and cancel the original item customer finder. And if they click cancel from the finder, we're going to set the result to OK. Now we're going to save the script, check it back in. It is now no longer commented out, and test. The customer number finder has been replaced by the item view, and if I select an item, the normal OE functionality will prevail and it'll attempt to create a new customer with that item code. The next OCX script we're going to have a look at is how to add a button to the underlying form control. We're going to add an Add Freight button to the right-hand side of the Prepayment button. And this script is the Add Freight button. First, let's edit the script and remove the comment for the OE1100 row. First, we initialize the form control and then run the create screen function. The create screen function gets a list of the form controls, the form and the prepayment control, and then runs the onControlInfo function. Then it shows the form. In the onControlInfo function, the first thing it retrieves is the form itself, because we need the dimensions and the position of the form to know where to put our new button. We also need to know where the prepayment button is, so we can put our new button to the right-hand side of the prepayment button. So using F and B, we can create a new button, Add Button. The text of the button is Add Freight, and the details of the height and the width, etc., is relative to the form and the existing prepayment button. And then we disable the control until such time as we have a valid order. We need a global variable back to this control that we've just created, and we're calling it button freight and associating the onClick with the new button onClick. We also need a handle to the data source for the OE ORD H and the OE ORD D. In terms of making the freight button visible, we want to do it on the on/after of the header data source. So on/after of the header data source, if a record has been fetched or the record has been initialized or we have a customer name, then we're going to enable our freight button. And when the freight button is clicked, it's going to insert an item detail row in the data source. It's going to set the line type to 2, which is miscellaneous charge, and it's going to add a miscellaneous charge, the code being TF, and insert that into the data source, and then get the host control to refresh. Save this and check it back in, and test our new functionality. In addition to our other scripts, we now have this new Add Freight button, which is disabled until we have an active order. So let's call up an existing order. And now that we've got a record, the Add Freight button is active. And when we click the Add Freight button, it adds a miscellaneous charge with the code TF and whatever the TF default charge is, in our case $100. And it adds it after the row that's currently active. For more information on the UI container, if you go to your Sage 300 VI XXA directory and within there the doc directory, and then double click on any one of these topics and then click on UI down in the index, you will see all the controls that are available to you for the UI. And finally, the last script you're going to have a look at does a number of things. It adds 2 tabs to the OE tab control. The first one will have an optional field on, and as you maintain the field on the tab, it will maintain the optional field. The second one will have a date control on, and it will add a date control to the front screen here. This is the last script we're going to look at, the add field to screen. Check it out and uncomment it so that the functionality becomes active. First, we initialize the data control and then run the create screen function. In the create screen function, we want to get information on the form itself, on the existing field, the ship track no field, because we want to add our new date field to the right-hand side of that, and on the existing tab control. We get the handle to the tab control and set the on-click tab if that is activated. And that is going to run this function down below. First, to the tab control, we're going to add a new tab and call it mandatory field and get a handle, get the number, the tab number, so we know which one it is. So this tab index is stored away for tab 1. Then we add the second tab control, call it shipping details, and store away which tab it is, tab 2. For the on control info, we want to get the information on the form itself so we can place our fields and buttons relative to the size of the form. And we want to get the tracking number field. This time we're finding it by caption. And we want to get the tab information as well. And we need some information to update the optional fields, so we need to know what is the data source for the order header and what is the data source for the optional fields. First thing we're going to do is add a new field. So we're creating a new field, we're making its control type date and time, and we're positioning it relative to the form and relative to the existing B field, which is the one we've retrieved, the tracking number. Then we're going to add a second date field, but this time it is going to be relative to our tab 2. And the third thing we're going to do is add to our mandatory optional fields tab, we're going to add a new field, and we're just going to use the first optional field in the list of order headers, which is the approved optional field, which is a string, and we're going to put it on the tab. On the field changing, we're going to run this my optional field change. And finally, we show the form. If the tab control is clicked, depending on the order which one is activated, we need to set the fields, our new fields, whether they show or are hidden. If the currently active tab is the first one, which is the one where we've put our new date field beside the package tracking field, then we want to show our new field, otherwise we hide it. If the tab order is our new tab 1 for our optional fields, we're going to show our optional field, and we're going to call the function to set it from our optional field value, otherwise we hide it. If the tab order set is tab 2, then we're going to show our new date field, otherwise we hide it. If our optional field, which is on the tab 1, changes at all, then we're going to update this new value into our optional field view, and when the optional field value is refreshed, we're going to read it from the data source and put it into our new value. Now if we save the changes and check it back in and test. Now we see the 2 new tabs, which we should have hidden if there was no record active. But in getting a record active, we see the 2 new tabs. We see our new date control, which is beside the package tracking number. And on the mandatory field tab, we see our optional field. If we change it, we see the optional field value changing. If we update the optional field, we see our approved field changing. And we also see our date control on the shipping details. All these OCX scripts, just like the same with the View scripts, are imported into the Sage 300 company database, and they will dump and load with that database and will upgrade as well. So the scripts are dynamically applied to the OE1100 OCX, So when you upgrade, these same scripts will apply to the new upgraded OE1100 OCX. We have just run through the 6 sample scripts, OCX scripts for the OE order entry screen. For more information on Extender, please go to orchid.systems, select the Extender product, and you will find other videos, brochures, case studies relating to Extender. And if you've got any queries, don't hesitate to send me an email.